Hey Five Spokes, Karen here. Today I'm going to do a quick video to get us all on the same page with what I am talking about with certain movements when I share my profiles. I got a great question from one of our followers that asked, well, what do you mean by jumps? I understand that with all the different certifications out there, Schwinn, stages, there are some different movements perhaps and language that our different certs use. And I try to be as broad as possible because obviously when you are talking to a wide range of instructors who have different backgrounds and different certifications, it can get confusing. So this is about clarification. It also really speaks to when I say, make it your own. Take whatever inspiration or my exact profile and then make it your own. Part of what I'm saying is, depending on your certifications or certification, you can just swap out. If I'm saying jumps and yours is a tap back, great, swap it out. But just to be clear, I'm going to run through some of the movements and what I mean. So let's hit jumps. That seems to be the most asked about movement. So when I say jumps in hand position 2 is right here, okay? So hands here. Hand position 3 is out here. We use that only when we're out of the saddle, right? So hand position 2, most commonly used hand position. So if you don't reference the hand positions with numbers, hopefully that clears that up. Hand position 2, hand position 3, okay? Jumps. So jumps in hand position 2, it's a lift and lower out of the saddle. So the first thing you want to do is have your riders from the saddle, get a nice strong resistance on, enough to raise their body out of the saddle. And you're lifting, landing, and lowering. So it looks like this. You get a nice strong resistance, okay? And not super strong, like you would jumps on a hill. We'll get there in a minute. This is jumps in hand position 2. So you're lifting and lowering. Lifting and lowering. That is jumps in hand position 2. The coaching is to lift with your legs, lower with your legs. Try not to pull and plop. So no pulling, no plopping. But it takes a lot of strength and balance. Jumps in hand position 3, we add a little more resistance, and we're lifting and coming out. Thumbs on the bull nose, we're out here, and then lowering. Lifting, you stay out a little bit longer, and lowering, okay? Difference between the two, hand position, length out of the saddle. Jumps hand position 2, they're quicker, okay? Little less resistance on the wheel. 3, little more resistance. The count is a little longer between lifting and lowering. So that's jumps. I got my heart rate up. Hand position 2, hand position 3. Accelerations. Flat road. Okay? All accelerations are, how I use that word is, riders have a flat road, steady pace. You're picking up the pace. You're accelerating. Short period of time. For me, it's usually 15, 20, maybe 30 seconds. And often, I'm using accelerations to extend the warm-up. Often, I'll have my warm-up, and then I will use a song for accelerations, and just pick it up to the beat, right? Beat of the song. I don't get super prescriptive. I'll just use a song. You're rolling along, flat road, beat changes, pick it up. So that's accelerations. Flat road, speed up, short period of time, drop back. Fast flat, that's another question I get. It's not technically a movement, right? It's a flat road, you're seated, but I use that. A fast flat, usually 95 RPM to 110. Flat road, fast. And you want to coach them to hit a fast pace, fast RPM, and then hold it steady. One of the challenges there that you're asking your riders to do, holding a steady cadence is hard, right? It's hard. It requires a really strong pedal stroke, a smooth pedal stroke, even application of pressure, okay? And so if you have meters especially, it's great. I love doing fast flats, asking people to see if they can even close their eyes if they're good with that. Check out their RPM, close their eyes, keep that fast flat, open their eyes, are they at the same cadence? So that's something fun you can do for your riders. I got a question the other day. They have older bikes in the studio. I also teach on some older bikes at times, and you can do the old-fashioned cadence count, right? So what you say is, you count it down, and then you ask riders to count every time their knee comes up. So it's a revolution, right? We're looking for RPM. So I'll say, okay, doing a quick cadence count here. In 3 seconds, every time your knee comes up, go ahead and count that. We're going to do it for 15 seconds. We're going to times that by 4. So it will be like this. 3, 2, 1, go. And then they start to count. Stop after 15 seconds. Times it by 4. And they have their RPM. Okay? Manual cadence count. All right. Sprint. This is how I teach them, and we have sprints in the saddle, and we have sprints out of the saddle. I've read things on, cycling sites and these debates, there's no sprint if it's not out of the saddle. Okay, whatever. I'm just saying, I do sprints in the saddle, out of the saddle. It's a group fitness class. As long as you're safe, do it. In the saddle, 3 parts. So you get the riders prepped, right? And I like to get them into a steady cadence, add resistance, use music that really starts to build energy and RPM. Then mentally I say, okay, we've got our bodies ready, let's get our minds ready. Listen to the energy of the music. Picture yourself exploding for the next 15 seconds. At the end of that 15 seconds, you're done. You should be breathless. You can't do any more. 10 to 15 seconds. If you can go longer than that, you probably didn't do max effort. Okay? So 3 parts. Get them ready physically, right? Find enough resistance on their wheel that they have a steady challenge. Then I give them about 30 to 15 seconds, get their mind ready, and then 3, 2, 1, go. So sprint, all out, max effort. That's in the saddle. If I'm doing it out of the saddle, sprint out of the saddle, same setup, right? Except that when you get ready to sprint, and you do your count, 3, 2, 1, we're exploding out of the saddle, go. And it's all out, right? So sprints in the saddle, hand position 2, sprints out of the saddle, hand position 3, right? We covered jumps in hand position 2, jumps in hand position 3. When I say, last 2 moves I'll talk about, seated climb, okay? Because in Mad Dog, right? It was taking outdoor cycling and bringing it indoors, right? It's the original spin program. So the language that is used reflects riding outside. So when we talk about a climb, right, we're emulating a climb. How steep that climb is depends on how much resistance is on the wheel. RPM for seated climbs, 60 to 80, right? That's what I use, that's what we were trained. If your program has something different, then use that, right? Often you'll notice in my profiles, I don't talk about RPM very often, mainly because if you understand the movement and you know the parameters associated with that movement, then you want your rider somewhere in between there. Unless I'm doing an actual cadence ladder or it's a fast flat that has a certain cadence range that's associated with it, I don't get prescriptive in my profiles. Again, I am trying to communicate to all of you in the broadest way so that you can take the general structure of my profile and really make it your own. So, seated climb, obviously seated, right? I'll always have those sits bones on the wide part of the saddle. Hand position 2, and enough resistance that your RPM are somewhere between 60 and 80, and the intensity is hard. So in a rate of perceived exertion, it tends to be hard, okay? Standing climb, same idea, right? It's just that it's out of the saddle in hand position 3. Rate of perceived exertion, hard to very hard. You want always key enough resistance that you can really work this out of the saddle, but the most common thing is to have too little resistance because people are afraid, oh, I can't do it, or I won't be able to last, which is why it's important to tell your riders what to expect. There are profiles where maybe there's a challenge I won't be super specific because of what we're doing mentally on that ride, but as a rule, let your riders know what to expect so they can be confident about how much to give, right? So, hand position 3, you're doing your standing climb. Often what happens is what you see me doing right now. There's not a lot of resistance. There's not enough. I'm on a freewheel bike, so man, you're busted if you don't have enough resistance on one of these bikes. But what will happen is they will bounce. They'll have that pogo stick. If there's not enough resistance up here, they'll bounce up and down. So you want them to add certainly enough. The other thing I see is they have so much resistance on, it looks like this. They're definitely below 60 RPM. They are just, often their whole body will start doing this because they need their body weight to push down. You do not want that, right? So be super aware, in your audience, if you see that, be specific. Look at that rider. Don't call them out, but look at that rider and just say, you don't want so much resistance that you can't manage the flywheel, basically. It's in control of you, right? So have them back off. If you see the pogo stick, you say, you want to add enough resistance that you can really hold your body weight and that you're not bouncing up and down. It's more of a snake. It's more of a side-to-side motion. Okay? There are the moves. I hope that clarifies what I'm referencing when I am referencing hand position 2, hand position 3, fast flat, accelerations, right? Flat road with picking up speed quickly. Sprints in the saddle, sprints out of the saddle. Seated climb, standing climb, okay? Super quick overview. I love your questions. It's always inspiration for us, so don't hesitate to ask. I hope this was helpful. As always, stay awesome.